This is Michael Lighten, and this is Love Notes Battle, one chapter, but I'm going to go with the prologue here. In Wisconsin, remnants of the state of Wisconsin was the bedrock of otherworldly aliens, and humans who did vie to live in harmony split into two governments, one human, Greater Kenosha, Wisconsin, the other alien, Superior, Wisconsin, struggled to obtain a central identity. When their enemy, farmers from farmland, used terroristic tactics to undermine the region, Wisconsin citizens fought back with fierceness that shook lands far and wide. Author's notes. Love Notes, the rise of Love Notes arrived through stories from Fantasyland. Love Notes were considered a mental note placed in another being for the purpose of manipulation of that being, since it was an affectionate impression was rarely used but through phases who had fond feelings for each other. Hate notes usually discouraged on planet Fez. Stories from Fez admitted deaths occurred when used. Hate notes were used to force a phase to do drastic things, sometimes against their will. Both hate notes and love notes were applied through touch or a deep hug, and sometimes through thought impressions. You are killing yourself by turning on yourself. An enemy is knocking on your door, which is our doors. Should be preparing for war, and you are fighting each other. Say drop your battles with each other and prepare to receive the enemy. If not, you will be destroyed. And this is Tobias Stone's first talk, April the 4th, New Times. In Superior, Wisconsin, on August, New Times, Mark Tobias Knott was born. In the New Times, through his parents, Tobias Stone and Binder Knott. After the death of Tobias Stone in the New Times, the actual day of his father's death, Mark was born through the anguish of his mother, Binder, who watched as her husband died at one of his famous talks with Phasies from Phasyland of Wisconsin. Mark was not pleased with his name. He kept this hidden for many years. He knew there would come a time when he would have to face his anguish over his name. His older brother, Keith Knott, knew of his problem with his name and knew this day would emerge to face it. Mark stood tall at 6 feet 3 inches. He had black hair that was matted to his enlarged forehead. He had strong neck muscles and a light brown complexion with prominent gray eyes and thick lips. His ears were also small, and others usually wondered how he could hear so well. Mark was human, mixed with phasing human genes, and he was able to read minds and feel emotions at times. But these abilities were limited compared to what a phasey could do. This was the day Mark had been waiting for. It was his birthday. He knew a human who took on the phasey constitution was given a handsome stipend until they were 25 years of age. They were also encouraged to do their vocation, but there is where Mark fell short. He was not sure what he wanted to do yet. Mark waited in a side room of yellow and gold walls. He paced back and forth in gray robes with black stripes. His black boots made clicking noises as he paced nervously. He mumbled to himself as he formed the words he waited to say. Keith appeared in the room wearing a blend of blue with gold stripes in his robe. He also wore green flexies, which called cotton shoes. His dark complexion and large head did not resemble the look of his brother Tobias. Keith had bright eyes with a hint of gray in them. His eyelids were thick and his lips were also thick. This was the only similarity. Keith's face appeared more like his mother, while Tobias appeared more like his father's. "Are you ready?" Keith asked. "Ready as can be. Want to walk with me?" Mark asked. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Keith said with a smile. Paul's estate was a large place of red bricks and tall white columns of 140 rooms that upheld it on a hill that declined 200 feet into the Namajadi River, which flowed southwest to northeast. Many of the rooms were small and comfortable with white marble floors and green metallic colored walls. Paul had ordered the entire estate repainted with green walls over the orange and added 98 rooms. Fazy servants in purple and yellow robes walked and drove in 4 vehicles that were guided by electrical floor magnets. Master Paul Knott was 53 and feeling the pressures of maintaining a volatile region. He was named Master when his father Sean Knott died under mysterious circumstances. Paul sat in blue robes with yellow trimmings and a long-backed green chair in a chamber of white and gold. Next to him sat his wife Cleo, Knott, who was 58, but she looked much younger in her yellow robes with red trimmings and a long-backed blue hair. Cleo's cocoa butter skin glinted from a sun that shined little light in chambers nearly closed from the sun. This is a continuation of Love Notes Battle. This is part 2. Binder Knott was Paul's sister. She recently turned 52 and sat in white and blue robes as her dark complexion blended into the long-backed chair. She smiled even white teeth as she saw her 2 sons, Mark and Keith, enter the chambers. Tall facey guards stood in black uniforms with strapped-on silver laser cannons. Also at their waists were smaller gamma guns and silver canister bombs were attached to their waistbands. Mark always counted the guards because he feared for his Uncle Paul's life, since hit squads were sent from farmland to obliterate what was Fazy land of Wisconsin. I know there are 30 guards instead of 20, Paul said after reading Mark's thoughts. You can never have enough guards in these times, but enough about me. This is your time. You may approach. Mark and Keith had held back in respect and paused, but Keith only stood his ground so that Mark walked forward and slightly bowed. Master Paul Knott, I, Mark Tobias Knott, have come for my stipend and my any comments you may have for welfare, Mark said firmly. You may take your seat before the council of immediate concerns. Mark sat in his tall chair. Tobias sat, and in a green tall chair that faced Paul, Binder, and Cleo. He paused in his thoughts before presenting his concerns. I have had concerns for my name, Mark. I believe that Mark is not who I am. I'm more a Tobias than a Mark. So my name should be changed to Tobias Knott, Mark said evenly. Immediately he felt the tension around him. He could feel most of the angst from his mom. She pressed her dark hands together and pressed her thick lips in tension. You have that right to change your name, Paul said. Want to tell us why? I believe that revenge was used to kill many people when it came to Mark. I believe my mom and you, Master Paul, planned to kill the Gang of Six to enact revenge for Mark's death. I do not know what kind of man my uncle was, but don't believe he would have condoned this action. So my father fought to change his life and the lives of many others. That is the kind of human I want to be. So the name changes, Mark said. A name change does not man make, growled Binder. Mark stared at his mom with gray eyes. This is the first step toward obtaining my manhood or humanhood. have here a location to send my stipends if I have met all the points of humanhood, Mark said. Mark kept his arm out with the black chip in his hand. A nearby guard obtained the chip and gave it to Paul, who stared at the chip with white eyes. Paul looked sternly at Mark for a time as he read as deep as he could for any insincere thoughts and found none. So what is your vocation? Paul asked quietly. If you cannot clarify your vocation in 6 years, we will have to abandon you. Do you understand that? I understand that, Master Paul, but my vocation is clear after reading my father's teachings. I want to help others in need, Mark said. You have picked a hard road for yourself, Cleo said. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Tobias Stone went through hell. You are no Tobias Stone. No, Council Leader Cleo. I am Tobias not. Mark stood and bowed slowly. The council bowed slightly, and Keith could only smile with his brother's performance. Both brothers walked stiffly from the minor council, but when they emerged into halls of green and white floors, they hugged vigorously. Keith and Tobias parted and smiled in unison. I knew you could do it, Keith said. Mark's name would no longer have the power it did. It will forever have some power in our lives. It is part of history, Tobias, formerly Mark said. It will be in the history books that you walked away from revenge and death. We made our mark, no pun intended, he said. Binder walked from the chambers in her white and blue robes. Her white eyes glared at her sons. They both became silent, but did not bow their heads in shame as they did as child fools. They stood silent and erect, prepared to take what fury the mother would unleash. Tobias, with me. Keith, your uncle wants to talk with you. Binder turned away as Tobias followed his mother. Keith bowed to his mother and reluctantly went to talk to the master. In Binder's office of blue and yellow walls and brown furniture, Binder paced quietly at a long window. Tobias stood firm and silent near her large brown desk. When she turned to him with thick-lidded white eyes, he knew some onslaught would transpire. How can you do this to me? She asked. I named you Mark because it's a strong human name, which means right on the mark. My brother was named Mark. He was killed wrongly, and in his remembrance, I named you after him. I know about the vengeance you and Master Paul placed on his killers' heads. In the end, 5 died through both your hands. I want no parts of that bloodshed on my soul, Tobias said. You talk like a Christian. Use terms like soul and vengeance. What your uncle and I did was not vengeance, retribution. Your term for soul we face is called self. Are you a Christian now? Binder asked. I am a half-human, Tobias said. Your lineage does not make you a Christian. If your father was alive, he would have said the same, Binder said. Your uncle is waiting to give you your stipend. It's time you leave. When you fail in trying to help those who don't deserve it, you will return to me and regain your name and your place next to Master Paul. Binder turned away from him, and he knew this was the end of their conversation. When he slightly bowed and left, Binder only smiled as she heard a shuffle near a far room. Sunlight beamed through the tall window, and she closed her eyelids and felt the presence of Sheila P. Binder turned to look at Sheila, who stood in green and black robes and wore a black belt around her waist. She stood in white flexies, cotton shoes, and her olive skin blended with the blue walls. I only want you to act as a lookout for my sons. Keith is his own father. But Mark is another story. He is something special. You know what I mean. Report to me weekly on their progress or lack thereof. You will be well compensated for your troubles, Binder said. I'm not doing this for money, Sheila said. I am doing this for Tobias Stone's legend. I know, Binder said tenderly. They locked eyes for a time, and Binder used this time to scan her and knew she was genuine. Sheila really believed this was about Christian domination in the Fazy land. As Sheila slightly bowed and turned to leave, Binder felt Sheila and her zeal was mistaken what this was about. Binder felt this was about the love for her sons. Now that is part 2 of Love Notes Battle. Hope you enjoyed that. So I'll pick another book to read until all of the books are completed. I'm using a video pad. I'm gonna look also into a wave pad. These softwares that I'm working with. But so far I'm doing video pad, and I'm still learning how to use this video pad. If you want any of these books on ebook, there's Amazon. So go to at Amazon.com. Is at drafteddigital.com, and also it's on Google Playbooks.com. So you check those 3 out and you can get the books and tell me what you think on it. On the Google Playbooks, also in addition, that's the audio version on that, and that's the auto narrated. And I keep emphasizing it sounds better than my dry voice. But I have some experience in broadcasting from WPB 88.1 in Philadelphia. Did some jazz programs then, and I got too far away from it, so I'm going slowly back to it through the books now. So this is the time of the voice. So I hope you enjoy this. This is Michael Lighten, and I see you in the next audio.